know a couple with a Karen. She blamed him for everything. The husband was, in our opinion, something of a saint. Once she broke a glass in the kitchen, came and sat back down at the table and said, "That was your fault." We all just stared at her. She looked sheepish and said, "I knew that one probably wouldn't work. They're divorced now. I guess even saintliness has its limits." I have a coworker who says thank you to the pop machine every time she uses it. It doesn't sound like much, but you try enjoying your tuna sandwich while hearing the clunk clunk of a soda dropping and then a cheery thank you behind you every day. Every day. A new employee said she had a death in the family. She hadn't been there long enough for bereavement leave, but I told her to take some days off and I'd still pay her. She took a full week. When she returned, we all checked to make sure she was okay. She said she and her family were all still struggling, so she left early a few days. She talked constantly about trying to cope with the loss. Then during one conversation, she said, "I'm just glad my mother got to spend 12 wonderful years with Barry." Coworker, "Barry was a child. I'm so sorry you lost your brother." Her, "Oh no, Barry lived to be an old man. He was actually many years older than they normally live." After several minutes of head-scratching silence, we managed to ask her a few more questions. Barry turned out to be a poodle. She's no longer employed with us. In the employee cafeteria, there were two women in line ahead of me. One was arguing with the other that having a Snickers bar wasn't cheating on her diet because it had nuts in it, and everyone knows nuts are healthy. Waitressing, I walked up to a booth with two people. One was a woman facing me. The other, who had their back to me, had long hair, so as approached, I greeted them with, "Hello ladies, are we having a girls' night out?" That's when I saw that the one with their back to me was a man. They were a married couple. The wife thought it was hilarious and kept teasing the man all night. I could tell that he didn't think it was all that funny. A woman was making her way to different pieces of equipment in the gym, only she didn't sit to use any. Instead, she used her lipstick to make X's on the equipment. I walk over and ask what's she doing after she puts an X on the final piece of equipment, and she says she's labeling which equipment she will be using when she comes out of the locker room, then disappears to the locker room. When she returns, she finds everything she had labeled occupied, and she walks over to me as I'm training someone and says, "What's going on? I reserved my spots." I told her there's no reserving equipment and she had to wait for equipment before she could get her workouts in. She screams at me and tells me she's going to find my boss and get my ass fired. My boss led this woman to go to her office. No more than 7 minutes passed before the woman was heard screaming, "This isn't fair. You can't ban me just because I marked what equipment I'm going to use." The woman stormed towards the locker rooms and then stormed by me looking like she was ready to scream gym bag in hand, and she left. My on-the-job fail. I was hired as a magician for a child's birthday party. This family's yard was pretty large, surrounded by a heavily wooded area, so I did the rabbit from a hat trick and then put the rabbit down on top of its hutch, which was on a picnic table. The rabbit was then snatched up by a hawk in front of about 20 horrified 8-year-olds. I have a wonderful wife who is also an excellent cook, but my mother doesn't like her, and once my mother attacked my wife and had an argument with her. Nevertheless, a week later, my mother wanted my wife to bake cakes for her birthday. My mother told me to order my wife to do it. I replied that my mother should call and politely ask my wife herself. My mother exploded and, of course, did not call, because how could she humbly ask for help from someone she hates? Later, she accused us of ruining her birthday. I don't regret, and I like how my mother's hypocrisy bit her in her own ass. I was fresh out of college, single, and started a new job in a town where I didn't know anyone. The secretary at work offered to set me up on a blind date, and I figured, what the heck. My date showed up, 7 months pregnant. The secretary and I don't speak too much these days. I used to work at a bar. One time, this mean old drunk passed out at his table. His waitress then took out his wallet and pulled out enough cash to cover his tab, as well as a tip for herself. No, it wasn't legal for her to do that. Not at all. Anyway, she's a manager now. Hotel manager here. One time, an employee became unhoused, so they began sleeping in the laundry room, storage closets, and even the diner's kitchen. Hay also left their bags of stuff in public restrooms off the lobby and diner overnight. We gave them multiple warnings that they couldn't sleep in those areas for safety reasons. They also certainly couldn't leave their bags in the public bathrooms. We offered them vacant rooms when we had them, but we were often sold out. One manager tried to help them find local shelters, cheap rooms to rent, cheaper hotels with vacancies, etc. They weren't interested for whatever reason and just kept coming back and sleeping in random places. Eventually, maintenance found a campsite on the rooftop with a sleeping bag, blankets, and small camping stove. When confronted, they tried to attack the manager. We had to call the cops and they were fired, obviously. I pulled into the Taco Bell drive-thru and ordered a Baja Blast. The person inside then said, "Do you want the drink or the freeze? Because we're out of both." Well then I guess I want neither. A company I worked at many years ago would get a cake for birthdays. The receptionist, whose job it was to order the cake, would ask the birthday person what kind they wanted. My birthday came around and the receptionist asked my preference. I said, "I'm not a big cake fan. Let's shake it up and have bagels and cream cheese so everybody can enjoy them with their coffee." She blinked and said, "No, it has to be cake." I asked why. She replied, "Because that's the way we've always done it." I laughed and said, "Well, it's my birthday and I don't want cake. I want bagels. I think we're safe changing this up." She then got so flustered she had to ask the boss if it was okay to get bagels rather than cake. We got bagels. Yeah, I was working in a cafe. A lady came to the counter to order. This was the conversation. "Lady, I'll just have the usual." Me. "I'm sorry, what is that?" "Lady, you should know by now. You've worked here long enough. Don't you think it's time you learnt?" Me, "Lady, I work 3 jobs. I serve dozens of customers a week. Do you honestly think I remember what one person orders, lady?" "Well, you should remember mine." An older sounding woman complained to me that the color of our cars is scary and we should change it because it causes her anxiety.